Welcome to SheVentures. I'm Doria, co-founder of CentSai. Listen to women who take risks, build community, and get shit done. Recording from Madison Avenue in New York City. Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/SheVentures and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/SheVentures to get started today. Every so often, you hear a story of an indefatigable human being who fills you with hope. Today on SheVentures, we will meet a woman who in the span of 9 months, starting in 2008, was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in her mid-40s, a rare, incurable blood cancer. Her husband was also diagnosed with a genetic disorder that caused cancer around that time and died within a year. Left to raise 3 teenage children on her own, braving a diagnosis of incurable cancer, she had to return to work full-time at the New Jersey Board of Elections. As an antidote to the curved balls life threw at her, rather than just curling up in a ball and crying or being angry, she started fighting back one step at a time, literally. In 2012, while still living with her diagnosis, she started entering stair-climbing competitions, with her first being the Empire State Building run-up. Since then, she has run more than 50 races, including the Eiffel Tower, and at one point was 20th in the world. She is here to talk about the many pivots life has challenged her to take and how she has navigated them. She is quoted as saying, "Cancer may take the years out of my life, but it's not going to take the life out of my years." Despite some health setbacks, she has continued stair-climbing competitions, being a role model, appearing in the media like the Today Show, and raising money for the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation and the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, among others. Sally Kalksma, welcome to SheVentures.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a real pleasure to have you and an honor. You represent optimism in the face of adversity. Take us back to when you first received your cancer diagnosis of multiple myeloma, a blood cancer estimated to affect 32,000 people in 2019, according to the ACS.
That time in my life was very surreal. Things were going fantastic. My husband was healthy. He was diagnosed with his first tumor when he was in his teens. So we lived a roller coaster. Things were good, things were bad. And at this point, things were fantastic, but I just didn't feel well. And I didn't know, am I getting older? Why am I getting sick all the time? Why am I getting injured and I can't recover? And a doctor diagnosed multiple myeloma, and I didn't even know what that was. And no one in my family knew what it was. So it was very, very surreal. But what you have to do when you're faced with anything like this is educate yourself and become your own advocate. And I did, and I was researching, and I found the best doctor in the world, Dr. Edward Statmauer at the University of Penn. And I am taking this, face first. And then my husband was diagnosed, and it was I just put myself on the back burner, and I was like, I got to take care of him. It was a hurricane, a tornado at that point in my life. One
thing after the other.
Yes.
And you have 3 children. How did you tell them about your diagnosis?
Well, at first I didn't tell them because I didn't want to upset them, and I wanted to research it myself and find out all there was to know. And once I saw what stage I was in and how I could manage it, I then told my children. It took about 2-3 months before I told them because I didn't want to upset them, and I wanted to know all there was because I knew they were going to have a lot of questions. But at that point, it was called smoldering myeloma. That's the first stage.
Okay.
And it attacks your white blood count. So people are always sick at this stage. And then a lot of people aren't even diagnosed until stage 1 or 2 when it attacks the bones. And then stage 3 is the kidney. So I was very fortunate that I was diagnosed early so my doctor could keep an eye on me and catch it right when it went to stage 1.
So it was one of those wait and watch type of diagnoses.
Yes, you have to be very careful about your health because you do have a low immune system since it eats away at your white count. So my diet changed, my exercise habits changed. I needed more rest.
At the time you had health insurance.
Yes.
Many people speak about the emotional toll of cancer. Was there a financial one? And if so, can you walk us through that part?
I'm very fortunate. There was not a financial toll. My late husband and I, we were prepared. And I think everybody should be that way when it comes to insurance, whether it's health insurance and life insurance. Having a family and having a home, it's very important to have both health and life insurance. And I know a lot of people can't afford it, but there's priorities in life and you have to give up certain things.
So your point of view is that if it means not going out to eat
Correct.
7 or 8 times in a month, but you can then afford health insurance, it's well worth it.
Yeah, forget that iPhone X. Exactly. There's priorities, especially when you have children.
Yes. And you never know what life is going to throw at you. That's exactly it.
No. And I used to be a little bit more crazy than I am now, but once I became a single parent, and I don't mean a single parent where they have a father because we're divorced. I am their mother and father.
Right.
I took a step back from, jumping off the top of buildings. I may climb them, but I won't jump off them now.
Did you used to jump off top buildings?
Well, I used to do some daredevil things. Let's put it that way.
All right. Good for you. I love that. I think your spirit is part of what keeps you going. Did you need to have additional help, paid or unpaid, when you were undergoing treatment, you or your husband?
Well, I had a great support system, family and friends. You really see who means that much to you and how much you mean, like who steps forward.
Right.
And you also have this little bit of a resentment. You're like, how come this person didn't step forward? You expect that. And
I can imagine.
Right? Yeah. My husband once said when he was in the hospital, you find out who your true friends are when they come to see you in the hospital. And when I was in the hospital for my stem cell transplant for 3 weeks, you're saying, okay, who visited me? Because you just have so much time to kill.
Right.
It's a horrible way of looking at it. And you have to let it go because everybody has something going on in their life.
True. But it's also very human. I understand that. And you mentioned your husband within a very short time span was diagnosed with cancer and died very soon afterwards.
Within 9 months, yes.
Was his prognosis poor from the onset?
No, this is crazy. He had a rare genetic disorder that couldn't fight nerve sheath tumors. He had 7 different cancers during his lifetime. Every time he beat it, whether they were malignant or benign. Okay. He underwent chemotherapy in the past, radiation in the past, numerous operations. This one, we thought, okay, again, he's going to fight it and win. And this was melanoma. Melanoma falls under nerve sheath tumors. This was not from skin cancer. It was a mole that was benign and had the ability to turn malignant after. That's what this genetic disorder does. So this mole was very close to a lymph node. When he was diagnosed, the doctor said, you have 10 to 15 years. We went back for the next checkup. You have 3 to 5. We went to the next. You have 1 to 3. Every time we went, the doctors cut it in half. By September, they said, we hope he makes it to Christmas. And then later in the fall, they said, we hope he makes it to Thanksgiving. And he did. He passed that night. He waited for my daughter to come home from college. She was a freshman, and for my son to play in his Thanksgiving Day game. And then he never got into the hospital bed in our bedroom. He would always stay in the recliner. He called it his deathbed. Well, we had Thanksgiving dinner up in my bedroom. Toms River High School South was nice enough to bring us all our food, and we all sat up there with him. And then after dinner, he said, help me get into my bed. So we knew. And
it was exactly like that.
Yeah, he willed himself to get through. Amazing. That's how strong he was. You never would have thought he was dying of cancer when you saw him. People are like, no. And I'm like, yes, they just cut his time down again.
How did you both handle going through cancer at the same time?
He had probably a bigger sense of humor than myself. We really joked around a lot about it. Like, okay, where did we run to both get this? Where did we both maybe stop and fool around or something? Where were we that we both got cancer? Life takes
Very
a sense
unusual.
of humor. Yeah. If you want to enjoy life, you have to have fun with it, no matter what you do.
So humor was a big part of it.
Oh yeah. We joked around right up to the end.
And how did you support one another?
Again, we were there for each other. When we found out my diagnosis, he was so upset. He was like, no, I'm supposed to be the one that's sick. So we would take trips together to University of Penn, where both our doctors were. That was our date.
Date night.
Yeah, we'd both go, and his doctor, my doctor, and then we go out to eat after. How romantic is that, huh?
So you went through it together.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband passed away on his own terms.
Yes.
And was there time for you to learn how to prepare for the financial aspects that were going to lay ahead of you?
No. Everything happened so quick. I was living this great fairy tale life, working part-time, putting events on in town, which was so much fun, going to all my children's activities, that I had to go back to work full time. Again, financial and for the insurance. Very important to have that health insurance for my family and myself. And everything you're just hit with. I mean, working full time, there's like things you wouldn't even think of, like as silly as a car has to be turned over in your name within 30 days and all this stuff you're just getting bombarded with. And I'm really good with keeping notes. And like I said, I'm my best advocate. And no, I don't think anybody is prepared for that.
In hindsight, if you were to give listeners some tips about if they're facing this, what should they be preparing or thinking about from a financial perspective?
Well, you should get 3 opinions, just like you would with a doctor, a car, anything you do. I was fortunate enough to get life insurance, and I went and I got opinions from 3 different financial advisors. And I saw the one that was the perfect fit. And so far, we have a great relationship and things are going well. So you should do that. You should also accept everybody and anybody's help who comes along, because it's not going to last.
That's an interesting statement, because my father passed away from a blood cancer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you as well. And one of the things that I remember is that people were there for me very much at that time, or maybe a month after. But actually, when you need the most support is probably 2 or 3 or 6 months afterwards.
Exactly.
And people have gone on with their lives, but you're left to deal with the whole hurricane that just happened.
There was resentment, and I realized life goes on. And I was like, no, my life isn't going on.
Exactly.
I need help. And I don't think anybody should be ashamed to ask for help, because people will. They don't know what to do, especially when people say, what can I do for you? I hated that. I loved it when people just did it. Yes. Sally, can I do this for you? Because it's so general. What can I do for you? You have a whole list and you might feel bad. Can you walk the dogs? Can you buy this? I remember as small as a gesture it was great. I opened up my front door. I have 2 dogs, fairly large monsters. And I opened up my door and there was a 20-pound bag of dog food there. I was like, oh, that's great, because I was getting low on it and I had no time to go out and get it. Small little gestures like that
make all the difference.
It does, because you're not going to, unless it's your sister, brother, best friend, you're not going to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you do this for me?
It also, and this may sound slightly selfish, but it also takes a lot of energy to have to think about, as you said, well, what can you do for me?
I know. And by the time you explain it, you could have done it yourself. And that was the problem too. It's like, oh, all right, cut the grass with this is where I keep this. This is where I'll just do it myself.
So here you are as you describe it, a fairy tale life turned upside down. You're working full time. You're supporting 3 teenage children, well, teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
You know that you need health insurance. You are becoming familiar with financial matters. How did you handle the stress of suddenly becoming the sole breadwinner?
Working out. I have been a runner my entire life, and it releases so much energy. It gives your mind time to think. I started running when I was 7 years old. So I would get up before work, and I hate working out first thing in the morning, but I knew I had children's activities after work, and I would go for a run. I'd get up early, take my dogs, and just contemplate the day ahead and what I had to do that day.
And so you really took it one day at a time.
Exactly. You had to. I would just look at my planner, before I go to bed. All right, this is what I have for the next day. You can't do anything about it right now. Close your eyes, go to sleep, and tackle it tomorrow.
Is that your philosophy, that it's one day at a time and things that you can't deal with, you put aside until the next day?
Well, I try to do that when I can't sleep at night. If you're laying there at 2 a.m. worrying about it, there's nothing you could do. You can't get up and make that telephone call at 2 a.m.
Right.
So just put it aside. My philosophy is more like, I call it a box, but it's better as a pie chart, how much I allot to everything in my life because I have so much happening. And you have to change the sizes on that pie chart according to the needs. When the children are younger, of course, that slice of the pie is going to be a lot larger. Your health, if something happens, there it's a lot larger. So, I look at it, okay, what can my social life have right now? What can my workout and my racing training have right now, and my job? And I just take that pie chart and I change it as it needs to be.
And how did your children react both to your diagnosis and then to your husband's death?
My children are so strong. I admire them. They're my heroes right now.
Mm-hmm.
They looked at their father as a role model because he fought. He was a great father, great husband, and he fought. And when he passed away, I was in that same situation, and I became their role model. I found out through essays they wrote for school and when they graduated, speeches, and it meant a lot. So, being a positive role model was really important for them.
What ages were they?
When my husband was diagnosed, my oldest was 18 and the twins were 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they were all in high school.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they eventually went on to college and are all doing very well.
Phenomenal. I am so proud of them. I don't know where they got those brains. It's not from me or Pete.
Well, they clearly get a lot of it from you.
Yeah.
How did you handle paying for college? Is a huge expense. How did you handle that?
Well, I want to say you have to plan early.
Mm-hmm.
That's not something when they turn 18 to say, how are we going to pay for this?
Right.
You have to start early. As soon as they're born, you have to start putting it away.
Is that what you and your husband did?
Yeah. We had everything planned out, how we were going to pay for 3 college educations.
And so your children didn't have to worry about that?
No, I mean, they're worrying a little bit. They all went on to postgraduate.
Right.
So, I mean, they got scholarships and grants and, and I paid, but they still have a little bit, but not much.
So transitioning to what you're doing now, which is incredible, you at some point decided to start climbing stairs.
Again, I have to accredit this to my husband, along with the quote he always said, cancer may take the life, but I'm not going to let it take the life out of my years. When he first got his first job out of college, was in an office, not his type of thing. He was a commercial diver. He salvaged all over the world. And he was working in New York City, and he was so frustrated he would climb up the stairs at lunchtime. Well, I felt the same way when I went back to work full time. I said, I can't take this. So at lunchtime, I would hit the stairs just to burn some energy because I sat in a basement at a computer all day. And I'm so thankful for that job and everybody I work with. I love them. But I was so frustrated after putting on events and running around all day. And I actually liked doing the stairs. It was a whole new all over body workout. You take 2 at a time, you use the handrails. And I was also very involved in the Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, and they were the charity foundation for the Empire Run-Up. And as you know, that's very prestigious and hard to get into. Well, they had bibs, and they asked me if I'd like to do it. And, I'll do anything. Just ask me one time, I'll do it. And I did it. It was the most difficult thing I ever did in my entire life, and I said I would never do it again.
How many stories for those of us who don't know?
86.
86 stories.
floors, yes.
And how long did it take you to get to the top?
The first time I did it, it took me 19 minutes and 36 seconds. Since then, I've gotten my time down to 18 minutes and 1 second.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so after I did it, thank you. After I did it the first time, I said, I'm never doing this again. It was so difficult. And then they asked me the following year. I said, sure. And I trained a little harder. I studied. Again, it's very important if you're going to do anything is to study. And I went to, not seminars, but I went and I saw other stair climbers. And there was actually one seminar on it. And I read up and I watched videos and I started racing. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of good at this. This is really weird. I'm almost 50 years old and I'm like placing overall these races. So of course that helps you.
Yeah.
And I met the most unbelievable group of people. We call them step siblings. And the camaraderie in the stairwell before and after the race is amazing because it's so difficult, but everybody is there to support.
Yes.
It's an individual sport. I can't control how that other person does. So if they do well, great, good for them. It's not a contact sport. I can't control how they do. I can only control how I do.
Do you listen to music when you?
Sometimes. I just did a race a week ago in Dallas that was 600 floors. So I did listen to music.
How long did that take?
Hour and 45 minutes and 7 seconds.
What's your resting heart rate?
Very low.
I bet.
I had a medical procedure done and I swear I was flatlining. They were like, oh, don't worry. Her resting heart rate is like 46.
I asked that because when I trained for the marathon, I was at 45 or something. Yes. It's amazing what that does for your body.
I had to have a stress test and they put me on a treadmill and I'm like, turn it up. It took forever to get my heart rate up.
Yes.
We were just I'm like, come on.
You're like, can you challenge me
Yes.
now? So you're in amazing shape. And I also think that thinking of my own one experience, and you've had multiple, I do remember about the marathon that there was a point at mile 16. It's when you turn onto the Queensboro Bridge. You know you have 10 miles to go. There are no crowds. It's silent. It's uphill. It's windy. And there are mental blocks that you hit. So has your racing helped you with mental blocks in life in general? Oh,
without a doubt. When I was doing that 600 floor race and my legs were in pain, just screaming at me. And I'm thinking, all right, it's not worse than getting poked with 1 million needles for multiple myeloma. When you have a blood cancer, you're a pincushion. I felt like a voodoo doll. Just everything they did to you. It's not like you have an operation and they cut you open. It's all through needles and transfusions.
And talk to us a little bit about that because we've gone over the financial part of it, but you were diagnosed and I know you've had a stem cell transplant.
Correct.
Can you kind of walk us through where you started and where you are today in terms of the illness?
Okay. Like I said, it's like being a voodoo doll when you have multiple myeloma. Everything is done with needles and pills. Unless, unfortunately, you're stage 3 and they, it has adhered and they have to go in and cut it out or, the kidneys, the dialysis. But Early stages, what they do is you're going to take, before a stem cell transplant, they're going to give you heavy doses of 3 or 4 types of chemo. I was on the triple, which is Revlimid and Velcade and Dex, the steroid. It's a combination of the 3 you take for 6 months. I would take Revlimid, a pill every night. I'm still on it as maintenance. That's a chemo. The second is Velcade. It's a shot once a week administered by your oncologist. And then to help with that, you take the steroid, which out of everything I've taken, I've had heavier chemos. The steroids were my least favorite because they played with your mind. The others played with your body. You can control your body. But when something controls your mind, that's not good.
How did it do that?
Well, steroids make you very angry. And you have to control it. And you have to keep reminding yourself, it's the medicine. This is not me. And you have to remind other people of that when you call them freaking in the middle of the night over something really silly. And then once the steroids wear off, you're like, wow, I'm sorry. Yeah, steroids did not like that. So I'm fortunate enough right now that I'm on a low dose of Revlimid that I do not need the steroid. But getting back to the treatment before a stem cell transplant. So they put you on this treatment plan. And the whole idea is to wipe cancer out before the stem cell transplant. They can't put good cells in you if you already have cancer, because then the cancer cells will take over. So the whole idea is to wipe it out, and then the transplant just keeps you in remission longer. So once you do that for 6 months and you see that you're almost cancer-free, the levels in you. Before I started, it was 50% in my blood. So now it's almost down to 0. Then you go into the hospital for a very heavy dose for a couple nights of Cytoxan, an intravenous chemo. And that's where I lost the hair and I was vomiting. And funny story there, my oncologist comes in and he's like, how are you feeling? I'm like, I think I'm going to get sick. And then right there, I vomited. He's like, yes, I finally got you. I finally, I got you down. He goes, and I'm just looking at it. He said, if this didn't happen, my medicine wouldn't be working. I wouldn't be doing my job. So then after that, they check your levels. Then you go through what's called the harvest. You go back into the hospital for a week. And they hook you up to this machine that looks like an old-fashioned washing machine or something like from Lost in Space. I'm dating myself. And you have 2 tubes coming out of your neck. And they take all the blood out and then they separate it. This machine separates it into your red, your white, and your plasma.
Okay.
It keeps the white, it keeps the plasma. The red goes back into the machine, warms it up, and then it goes back into your body through the other tube. So you do this until you have enough white cells, 90 million, for 3 transplants. Only save it for 2. I guess the third is if the doctor drops it. I don't know, the bag.
Is it all at one time?
It took a week for them to get all 90.
So were you on this machine for the entire week?
During the day, I get hooked up to it.
Okay.
Yes, during the day.
It blows my mind what you've been through and also how far medicine has come.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's amazing. Well, 15, 20 years ago, if you were diagnosed with multiple myeloma, you had 3 to 5 years to live. And thank God for Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation, Celgene coming up with Revlimid. Now it's manageable.
So people can live in remission for a very long period of time.
Yes, exactly. That's why I take the Revlimid every day.
Okay.
So getting back, haven't even got to the transplant yet. So then you leave the hospital, give you a few days to recover. Then you go back in and they give you an even heavier dose of chemo now. And this one is called the Melophan. And this one totally knocks you just about down to death. Everything in you is down to 0. And right when you bottom out, they put the good cells back in you.
I must imagine at that point, too, you're very prone to infection, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You're in isolation, people coming to see you, masks,
okay,
all that. and you get the good cells in you. And that is really anticlimactic. All it was the doctor or nurse coming in, heating up the frozen cells that have been frozen and putting it right back in through one of the tubes that are hanging, of the many tubes hanging out of your body at this point. And it takes about a half hour. And then you're just in the hospital for, 2-3 weeks until your immune system comes back up and they see that your body has accepted the cells.
So there's a risk that your body may not accept the cells.
Well, yes and no. This point, it's my cells. They took my good cells out, made sure there was no cancer, and put them in me to regenerate. Mm-hmm. If this did not work after 2 times, we then go out and look for somebody who has the exact same, not blood.
Stem cells?
Yes, okay. Which is difficult.
Yes, I can imagine.
Very difficult. It's like, find them somewhere else in the world. Yes.
So you've gone through all of this. How did you balance working with?
Well, I was out of work. I was on disability for 4 months during this because once I came out of the hospital, I was still susceptible to infections. I was on what's called a neutropenic diet, which basically is, it sounds crazy, no fresh fruits, no fresh vegetables, because they can have little organisms on them. Only, well done meat. It was crazy. Burnt grilled cheese sandwiches, things like that. So until all your levels come back up, you stay home, and you're also very weak. It was hard for me just to walk to the end of the block every day. One of my sisters came to stay with me. I have 4 amazing sisters, and one came to stay with me, and every day we'd walk a little farther.
You're a very strong-willed woman, and I'm thinking about being in a situation where your body is debilitated. How did you cope with that?
Well, when I was in the hospital, I would do laps around the floor. And sometimes I would do lunges. And a physical therapist saw me doing this, and she goes, "You're a good candidate for an exercise bike." I'm like, yes. So I got an exercise bike in my room. And believe me, it was nothing to write home about, but I did. I posted on Facebook, look what I did. It was pitiful, but I did it. I made sure I got up no matter how much it hurt. I even fell one day. They had to do x-rays on me and all because I was so weak. I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and my legs just collapsed. But I would get up and I would do it. And when I was in the hospital, I actually signed up for a race 4 months later, a 5-mile race, because you have to set goals in life. And I told everybody, I said, I'm doing this. So you never want to fail. And once you set a goal and you tell people, you have to do it. It's kind of like, when you do the marathon, you tell everybody, or a triathlon, it's like everybody's expecting me.
So for you, telling people, having that goal ahead and not wanting to fail is something that has kept you going.
Oh, without a doubt. Getting through that 600 floor race last week, on Sunday, on Monday, I had to fly back and meet with the CEO of Celgene and the CEO of Bristol Myers. And I could not go into that meeting and have them ask, how did you do on your 600 floor race? I had to say, fantastic, right? I'm on their drug.
So what financial advice specifically do you have for people who are facing a cancer diagnosis?
Research. I know a lot of people out there have a hard time paying for medicine. We're lucky we live in a world today in our society where we have access to healthcare. Everybody in the United States has access. And through that healthcare, you can pick a plan that has your prescriptions. And if the copay is still too high, you can call the pharmaceutical company directly, and they have programs to assist you paying.
Can you give me an example of that?
I am a patient advocate for Celgene.
Okay.
My drug Revlimid can be very expensive if you don't have insurance, or even if you do in the copay. You can call them, and they will help you with a program to help pay for it.
So one might pay for it over time, kind of like in installments, or they reduce it, the amount that one pays, or both?
Correct. Yeah, it'll
Okay.
be reduced. There's all different programs depending on your financial need.
Because it is very true that, yes, one can have insurance, but I'm thinking of many of the 20 and 30 somethings that I work with. You spend $300 for catastrophic insurance thinking I probably won't need, anything more than that. But then you're also saddled with a deductible of $6,000 to $8,000 that you have to satisfy, and then a co-insurance on top of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would argue that for many people, having any kind of illness in this country is very hard to navigate.
When they say your health is everything, it is so true. It's not money, it's health. People take for granted every day when things go well. They just complain when the days are bad, and they don't realize every day that nothing goes wrong, that's a good day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, getting back to the health insurance, 2 of my 3 children, unfortunately, have the same diagnosis as my husband with the genetic disorder. And they see doctors at University of Penn regularly. And one of them is the genetic specialist with genetic counseling. And they told him right from the start, insurance is extremely important. You can never in your life go without insurance. And it's like we spoke about earlier, you have to make it a priority. If it means you're not going out to eat every weekend, if it means you're not getting the newest cell phone, that's what life is all about. I mean, even when you have kids, it's priorities.
I agree. At the same time, I'm just thinking to people who paying that $6,000 deductible, paying that co-insurance, it can be really financially debilitating. Do you have any advice for people who might be facing that situation in terms of any options they may have?
Okay. Some people are not going to like the advice I give, but no one ever said life was going to be easy. All right. You have to look at the best in every situation. All right. You can't pay for it, but let's see. Are you getting healthy? Are you getting better? Okay. That's the most important thing. All right. Worry about how you're going to pay later. Just focus on your health right now. And also look for the humor in it. That's what I do with everything in life. I'll take a situation and I'm not going to get all down about it. I'm going to be like, not quite the humor. Let's find the good in this situation too. Right? You just can't agonize over, all right, I can't pay for this. Mentally, that is going to make you weak. Your mind controls your body. As soon as you say you can't do something, your body breaks down and doesn't do it. As soon as you say you can, it sends the positive endorphins out. You know that in a marathon at mile 16. If you say you can't, you won't. Your body's going to break down and stop. But as soon as you say, I got this, the faster I go, the faster I'll get over it, your body is going to react to it. It's I can, I will. So when you're faced with these financial hardships, yeah, you have to do something about it, but first take care of your health. Number 2, reach out to the insurance company, reach out to the doctors, and reach out to the pharmaceutical companies. They're there to help you. They can set up plans.
That is true. I think that one of the things that we always try to remind people is that just because you get a bill, first of all, scrutinize it. But to your point, yes, being healthy is the most important thing. But hospitals and other doctors,
it's outrageous. I mean, I don't have the answer to healthcare.
Yeah, no
I guess
one does.
if I did, I guess I'd be running for office, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a problem.
It is a problem.
It really is. And the only solution I could say or advice is if you have a problem paying, call the doctor, tell them that. Tell them how much money you make a year. Be honest.
Yep.
Say, this is my salary. This is my rent. This is what I can afford. And say that to the pharmaceutical company. Call the hospital.
And advocate for yourself.
Yes, you have to. You have to be your own advocate.
And I would imagine that if you're, in those points where you were describing where you might be a little bit too weak to do it, you have a family member or a close friend do it for you.
Oh my gosh. I became really good at arguing with insurance companies over the years for my husband, because you'll get that pre-auth number, but somebody didn't write down that pre-authorization number, and keep really good notes, because you're going to have to call and say, no, here it is, pay the bill. I just had it last week. I needed the pneumonia vaccine, and supposedly the Shingrix, which is not the live, because you can't put a live vaccine into my body, with multiple myeloma, had to get approved. So I made sure I called, not the doctor's office, and I took down all the notes. Well, sure enough, I got a bill for it, and I had to call the doctor's office, the billing department, which is separate. And they said, well, you're going to have to take it up with Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I said, no, I already did. That's your job. Here is the authorization number, here's the date, and here is the reference number to my telephone call.
That is fantastic. And I think hearing your story and hearing what you do on a routine basis is really important, because you're right. It's not easy. Our healthcare is a huge pain in the ass, if I can be frank.
Oh, it is.
And it is, I guess, some of the best in the world, but it's still very expensive. And so, yes, you do have to get on the phone with insurers. You have to take notes. You really have to
keep a binder.
Yes.
I had one of those big folders, expanding folders at first, because, this doctor, you had to see a neurologist, this one, that one. So I had folders for every single one, for the bills, the explanation of benefits. And then you have to do that.
You think you're going to remember, but then you have so much going on, you don't.
No, and you have to write all those numbers down.
Yes.
They only give you a first name when you call, but you make sure you get the reference number to that telephone call.
That's so true.
Because they're recording it. They have it recorded.
Yes, that is very true.
So become your own advocate. Do your research. It is so important.
Going back to your racing, what has been your favorite race to date?
Well, I have a soft spot for the Empire. It's the most difficult, I find, but because it was my first and it's so iconic and exclusive to get into. However, my very, very favorite building, and I've done them all over the world, my very favorite is Rockefeller Center. For some reason, I just love it, and I do really well at that building.
What do you think it is about that building?
Memories, one, it just means a lot to me. Two, you just race up it and in the morning, and you finish and the sun is rising over the city, and you can see Empire. And it's just like, wow, I don't know. It's just, the energy there is amazing.
What was the Eiffel Tower like?
Hard. I'm going to say it was almost as hard as the Empire. At times, I think it was harder. That was amazing because it's also at night, like the Empire. And Empire, you run up, and at night you finish with a loop around the top outside, and you're just looking down at the lights. Here, you're outside the whole climb, the Eiffel Tower. The only thing keeping you from falling over the side is a chain link fence. And you're concentrating on the stairs, but every once in a while you look down and you're looking at the lights and you're like, wow. And it was raining. It was cold. The wind was coming in. I was like, oh my God. And then when you got to the top, just looking down at the Arc de Triomphe and, the Seine, you're just like, wow. And a year ago, I could barely walk. It was like amazing. I didn't climb as well as I could have when they invited me, when I was ranked 20th in the world, and they deferred me. They were so nice. I said, I can't do it. I have to go through a transplant. And they deferred me to the following year.
Wonderful.
Oh, that was so nice of them. The French are nice. I don't know where they get that reputation. Everybody was so nice. I went for a run and I got lost, and a lady walked me all the way back to my apartment.
That's wonderful. You said you've gone all over the world. What are some of the other places that you've run?
CN Tower in Canada was amazing. I really like that one. Toronto. I love doing these because I love visiting the cities, even if it's quick, just for a weekend. I spent 10 days when I went over to Paris and went over to the Netherlands to visit my niece, but sometimes it's really quick. Dallas, I flew in on Friday and I flew out Sunday night, but it's just nice because I'll pick out the highlight of the city. Like that was the JFK Museum. They have two things, JFK Museum and Dallas Cowboys. So, I picked out the JFK Museum. Toronto, just walking around that beautiful, clean city. Vegas were the Nationals. I'm not into the casinos, but you could go out to like the Hoover Dam and Red Rock Canyon. So it's really exciting. You can meet up with what you call your step siblings and take little day trips and check out really nice restaurants.
For someone who would want to get started, how do you recommend starting this?
Well, you just have to hit the stairs. I know a lot of people don't have stairs by them and they do stair masters or stair climbers, which I don't do a stair climber because it's not like a stairwell. You use the handrail. There's a technique. I mean, if you only have a stair climb machine, I guess that's good. But find a staircase because you take two at a time. The risers are different on every staircase. Empire is super difficult because it's a very old building. So the stairs are 9.5 inches high. Now, I tell people I find Freedom Tower easier, even though it's 105 floors. It's built to code now. So the steps are so much shorter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. However, the railings are now farther apart because it's built to code. So you have to do the rope hand over hand. When it's old and narrow, you could do the grip like you're running, like that.
How do you, if someone's ahead of you and you want to pass them, how does that work?
Well, in races, they set off the fastest people first.
Okay.
However, if you're about to pass somebody, you do want to say coming up and they should move over. It's courtesy. If they don't, you can nudge them. If not, you're just going to have to do it on a landing, which is a pain because you're going to have to go around them or hope they step to the side. Because on a landing, there's a technique too, grabbing the other stairwell, spinning yourself around so you can get up the stairs quicker.
So these are all things that you do, and they're
all things and it's all things I learned because my first empire, I didn't know this. I was grabbing incorrectly, or one empire, I said, "Oh, she walks the long landings. Let me try that." I lost so much time on that. That wasn't good. You have to learn and find what works.
Do you have a mentor?
Well, of course, it's always best to climb with someone who's faster or the same. But yes, I have a couple men on my team on Tower Masters in New York City that I climb with, Jeff Gingold and Steve Marsalis. They are two of the fastest in the country and they meet me for workouts and they're great. And I'm actually going to go meet one of my girlfriends and we're going to climb after this today.
What are you going to climb?
We're just going to go down to her apartment building is 21 floors. So we'll probably do a speed work, do that a few times. Well, I'm very lucky. You have to have access to these buildings and some don't give you access. Yeah. However, I'm very fortunate that I have access to one of the World Trade Center buildings.
Okay.
Yes, I'm very, very lucky. And that's 83 floors. And I make that my distance workout and I'll go in there and I'll do it 3 times.
How often?
Probably once a month.
Okay.
Twice a month. And then I only have a 5-story parking garage at my job. So I'll do that every day at lunch and I make that my speed workout and then a couple times a week after work.
So that's your speed workout, 5 floors. So how long does that take you?
5 floors, 10 to 20 times. It's speed repeats.
Sorry, for me, 5 floors, I would be out of breath.
That's all right. When I was at the dinner, I actually interrupted the CEO. He's introducing me and said, she did 600 steps. I stood up and said, 600 floors. Hey, if you got to speak up when you want something in life, I found that out too.
That is very true. Very, very true. You obviously have a very positive outlook on life, and you've been asked to write a motivational book.
Yes.
Can you talk to our listeners about that?
Yes, that is a book I'm writing with my dear editor who puts up with me, Claudia Volkman. It's called Life Gets in the Way. Because when you're younger and life throws you a curveball like it did with my husband's, one of his tumors, you think you're going to be doing something. You're like, oh, no, we're not. We're going to take this and we're going to make the best of this road we're now on. And the same thing, my twins were 3 months premature. And it's like, okay, we're not going to take this road now. We're going to concentrate on this. And so this book, I will give a little of my own life stories, but it'll also motivate you and have a sense of humor, how to go on in life.
Can you give us a taste, maybe one or two key takeaways from the book?
Well, right now is one of my favorite chapters, and it's called, I'm going to get in trouble for this one, Rock Stars, Firefighters, and Politicians. And it's for women who are faced with dating for the first time in their 50s. So yeah, I met my husband when I was 18. I was with him till he passed. I was, 46, 47, right. And I didn't start dating till I was almost 50. So it just gives advice for men or women who are in this situation and make the best of it. How much fun you can have with it.
How is that going?
I'm having a blast.
Good for you. Anyone in your life right now, or still playing the field?
No, I'm not playing the field. There is someone special right now.
Lovely.
Yes, thank you.
How was dating?
Dating was fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't enjoy all the dates, but I enjoy people. I love getting to know people. I can walk into a room and start a conversation with anybody or even the wall if I have to. But so just getting to know people, whether or not it was going to be a second date or not, I just enjoyed their company and,
So you're going to give women advice on how to, or men, how to navigate.
Yeah. I'm not that I'm a relationship guru, but you have fun with it and you learn from your mistakes and you go on.
Is the person that you're dating a cancer survivor himself?
No.
Does that play a role in your relationship?
No, because right now it doesn't even seem like I have cancer. My test results come back clean. I go every 3 months. I take a pill every night. I take Revlimid. It keeps it away. So I tell people, I had multiple myeloma. It never had me. And that's the way, I live my life. So I don't think of myself as like, oh, I have cancer. Sure, taking that Revlimid can get me down. There's side effects to it. But hey, we're all getting older. Everybody's on something, whether they're on blood pressure, blood thinner, diabetes, right?
It's true.
So I'm on Revlimid. That's how I look at it.
Yes. And if you could encapsulate how you maintain such a positive attitude. Have you always been this way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. Sometimes I should be more serious in certain situations and I have to bite my lip and then I'll just think of it funny in my head and maybe I'll start laughing. But yeah, I enjoy life. I really do. Even when something is bad, you just kind of look and you find something funny about it, or you meet somebody who's just a jerk, you just kind of, I feel bad for them. Those Debbie Downers, it's like, come on, you're only on this planet one time for such a short period of time.
Right.
Make the most of it. You're not going to get a second life. You get a second chance at things, but you're not going to get a second life.
That is so true. And what would you say are some of the things that you definitely want to do in your life?
Oh, I want to travel more. I have not seen enough of Europe yet. And I want to reach more people. I want to reach more cancer patients and their families and caregivers and tell them not to give up. You can still make the most of your day. And you don't have to do what I do. You don't have to climb 600 floors, but if it means, your goal, walking to the mailbox that day, make it your goal. If your goal is to hold your grandchild, then work on that. Right. Set a goal and work on it. I hope that I have grandchildren one day and I can play with them. Yeah, there's lots. I have a boat and I love boating and I hope that I can explore more with my boat. Yeah.
You have a very full life. There are a lot of, as you mentioned, Debbie Downers or glass half empty people out there. What advice would you give them?
It's hard. It's really hard because you can tell them, the sky is blue and they'll still find a way to say it's raining. It's like crazy. So just avoid them then. just avoid them. Don't get caught up in them being down. I mean, some people you can avoid if you work with them or a family member. You can try to draw them out and have them do something with them, but that's not really your responsibility either.
Right.
They can only help themselves.
People are who they are. And it's so true. They do have to help themselves with their outlook.
Yeah.
Talk to me just briefly about the importance of self-care for you.
Well, again, multiple myeloma eats away at your white cells. And now, ironically, you take this Revlimid that brings your white count even lower. So yeah, I have to really take care of myself, like wash your hands. Sometimes if my count's too low, I wear gloves all the time. In the airport in France last year, I actually put a mask on. Eating right and lots of sleep and trying not to drink too much red wine. That's my downfall.
So when you came here today, you gave me a bottle of limoncello. Can you talk to me about that?
All right. I don't cook, but I do make liquor. Yeah, that's my homemade limoncello, Smile and Sal's, homemade, 190 proof. A couple times a year, I make a batch, about 20 bottles of my limoncello, and everybody loves it. And people who, it's not their thing, I tell them then, you can pour it over vanilla ice cream or cut it with club soda, or just do it like us Italians and you sip it in between meals,
right? Or
as a dessert.
And what does 2019 have in store for you?
I'm very excited about this year. Hopefully I'll get my book done, but like the title says, life gets in the way. I tell my editor, okay, I'm going to give you this chapter. And then she's like, where is it? And I said, well, I did this. But I'm very excited this year. I have a contract with Celgene as a patient advocate. And I'm really hoping that I can reach out and help patients as much as those in the pharmaceutical company. Second, like I said, get my book done. Third, I started a new Facebook page, and that is No Wigs Needed. And it's for cancer patients, cancer survivors, their family members, friends, caregivers, regardless if they have hair, no hair, wear wigs. It's a positive, upbeat site. I'm not taking anything away from the sites where people can ask questions or pour their heart out. That's just not a site where you can tell a joke and talk about fun things. Mm-hmm. This site is. This is where you can post a funny picture and talk about something funny that happened in the doctor's office. So that's what this is. It's open to everybody. And I just say, please just post positive, fun stuff. Make the most of life and your treatment. So I started that too. And I'm hoping with my stair climbing that I can get back down to approximately being ranked 20th overall female in the world again.
Where are you right now?
Well, last year, we just started the season up again last weekend. So when I finished the season last year, which was exactly a year after my transplant, I was about 50th female overall, not age group, overall in the world. Good so I'm hoping I can get closer to 20 again. The age is going up too, but
I bet you'll do it.
Thank you. I think I'm going to also. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. You have to remember that. No doubt. You can do anything.
No doubt. And my last question is, if listeners want to find out more about you, Sally, where can they find you?
Okay, they can find me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, all at Sally Kalksma. And if they want to write me, they're welcome to write me at sjkalksma@gmail.com. And my last name is Kalksma.
It's been such a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
You've been listening to SheVentures. Like what you heard? You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a show.